Hi there guys, I'm Nikhil from Grady Tech and this is the complete review of the Vivo X60. In India, Vivo has launched this phone in two variants. Base variant is priced at 38,000 rupees for 8GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. Next variant is priced at 42,000 rupees for 12GB of RAM and 256GB of storage. It's available in two colors, Shimmer Blue and Midnight Black. We have the 12GB variant with the Midnight Black color with us right now. Now the main highlights for this phone would be its cameras powered by Zeiss Optics, great performance, amazing looking display, and finally, this phone also has a pretty premium design and build. Now with that said, I'll start off the review with the design and build. Now this is how the phone looks on the front, pretty much like any other phone out there, except for the super slim bezels at the top and bottom, and this is how the phone looks on the back. It has a curved back panel with a nice matte finish and an anti-fingerprint coating going on. Combined to that camera module at the top, it looks pretty similar to the Vivo X50 Pro, which is another pretty good looking phone launched by Vivo in the last year. Anyway, back to this phone. This is how the phone looks on the front and back. This phone has a thickness of 7.36 mm and weighs 176 grams. In hand, it fits pretty comfortably. It's not too tall, not too wide. It fits perfectly in the hand and it's great for single-handed usage as well. As for the buttons, they are made of metal. They have a nice clicky feel to them. They are sufficiently elevated. Even the power button has a nice texture to it. Overall, in terms of design and build, I really don't have any complaints. In fact, this is one of the best looking phones in this price segment. Now when it comes to the hardware department, this phone comes with all the basic sensors that you can expect with a mid-range high-end phone. You literally get all the basic sensors. It also has an in-display fingerprint scanner which is super fast, like it almost instantaneously unlocks the phone. We also have the face unlock feature. In good lighting conditions, it is super fast. Once again, it instantaneously unlocks the phone. It works pretty well even in low lighting conditions. It takes less than a second to unlock the phone. And even in complete darkness, it works. It's pretty fast and definitely usable. I've also tested the auto brightness sensor on this phone. It works and it is pretty responsive. As for the downsides, there's no FM radio on this phone and there's no SD card support. Even though this phone supports dual SIM, there's no option for SD card at all. Like no dedicated SD card slot or hybrid SD card slot. So when you're buying this phone, make sure you check out the storage variant because you're gonna be fixed with that storage. So besides these two things, this phone is really not missing out on anything. Now when it comes to the display, this phone sports a 6.56-inch AMOLED display with Full HD Plus resolution with a punch hole design, and the panel also supports 120Hz refresh rate and also has 240Hz response rate. This is definitely one of the best looking displays that you can get in this price segment. While watching videos, content is pretty sharp, brightness levels are amazing, and the color reproduction is pretty good. Yes, colors do look a bit saturated, but they are pretty pleasing. At least I really like it. And this phone also has Widevine L1 support, so you can watch high definition videos on Netflix and Amazon Prime directly on your phone. So once again, even in the display department, we really aren't missing out on anything. Now when it comes to the camera department, on the rear this phone has a triple camera setup with a 48MP camera with f1.79 aperture, followed by a 13MP wide-angle camera and a 13MP secondary camera with optical lens with 2x optical zoom. For selfies, you get a 32MP camera with f2.45 aperture. Now these are some sample shots. I've already posted a dedicated camera review for this phone, so you can check that out for complete information and all the camera related features offered by this phone. With that said, here's the gist. Pictures taken from the rear camera have good exposure control. Colors look slightly saturated, but they do look pleasing. Dynamic range is really good. Color temperature is also pretty well balanced. It's neither on the warmer side nor on the colder side. Now these are some pictures taken with the wide angle camera. Once again, color reproduction is pretty similar to the primary camera, so they have managed it very well. Exposure control and dynamic range are also pretty good. Just like any other phone with a wide angle camera, corners are not that sharp. Now these are some macro shots. This phone really does an amazing job in this aspect. Pictures have good color reproduction and captures a lot of details. This is definitely one of the best phones for taking macro shots in this price segment. at least in the recent times. Now these are some portrait shots from the rear camera. Edge control is pretty good in most cases, color reproduction is nice, but once again colors are slightly saturated. Dynamic range and exposure control are pretty well managed. Unlike regular shots, portrait shots are slightly more to the colder side. Overall, they do look pretty pleasing to the eyes. Now these are some pictures taken in low lighting conditions. Once again, it does a pretty decent job by limiting the amount of noise while retaining sharpness. Even in complete darkness, when you take pictures with a flash, it does a pretty decent job. Now these are some selfies. Color reproduction is pretty accurate, skin tones look good, and there's no aggressive post-processing or smoothing going on. Dynamic range and exposure control are pretty good. As for portrait selfies, edge detection is nice, color reproduction is pretty accurate, skin tones look pretty good. Especially for portrait selfies, there is a bit of softening going on, but the end results do look pretty good. Now these are some selfies taken in low lighting conditions. Once again, they look pretty good, colors look pretty accurate enough with a slight fade. Overall, even in low lighting conditions, you do get pretty good looking selfies. Now when it comes to video recording, this phone offers electronic image stabilization and the stabilization is pretty decent. Besides that, exposure control and dynamic range are also pretty good. Now this is the footage from the wide angle camera. Once again, we have electronic image stabilization, which is pretty great. With the wide angle camera, there is a bit of focus hunting issues and the footage is also slightly shaky. Besides that, exposure control and dynamic range are pretty good. This phone also offers ultra stable mode and here's the sample footage. Once again, footage is pretty stable and it's definitely better than the default electronic image stabilization. Now this phone also supports 4K video recording, so here's the sample footage. Now this is the sample footage recorded in 4K but downscaled to 1080p. This footage looks slightly faded when compared to the 1080p footage, but there is still stabilization. So guys, to conclude, cameras on this phone are definitely pretty good and those Zeiss optics definitely do make a difference. Pictures taken from this phone are definitely much sharper and the color reproduction is also pretty good. Now when it comes to performance, this phone sports a Snapdragon 870 processor with Adreno 650 GPU with up to 12GB of RAM and up to 256GB of storage. These are the benchmark scores. Now I've been using this phone as a primary phone for about 10 days and the performance of this phone is really good. I really don't have any complaints. Everything has been pretty smooth. That combined with that 120Hz refresh rate makes every operation or every task feel very smooth. So in terms of performance, there are really no issues with this phone. I've even tried playing high-end games like Asphalt 9 and Call of Duty. Gaming experience has been pretty good thanks to that bigger display and 120Hz refresh rate, and there's no lag either. Overall gaming experience has been pretty good and there are no heating issues either. So even though this phone doesn't come with a flagship processor from 2021, it still packs sufficient performance for a great gaming experience. Even if you don't play games, even for a regular user, everything works pretty smoothly without any hiccups. Now when it comes to the software department, this phone is running FunTouch OS 11 based on Android 11 with the latest March security patch. From the date of unboxing, I have already received about 2 updates and also got the latest March security patch. Software experience has been pretty good, there are no software issues, even the memory management is pretty good. As for the user interface, here's a quick preview of the notification area, recent apps. We also have the navigation gestures which work without any issues. So overall, software user interface is all about personal preference, so I really can't comment about that. But as far as the regular usage goes, everything works as it's supposed to be, everything is pretty smooth, and mainly there are no software related bugs or any kind of issues throughout my usage. Now when it comes to the audio department, this phone has a single speaker at the bottom, and yes, just a single speaker, no stereo speakers on this phone, but the speaker loudness is good enough for a regular user in a small quiet room. Speaker loudness is sufficient for regular media consumption, ringtones and alarms. This phone doesn't have any audio jack, but we do get an audio jack to Type-C adapter inside the box. I've tried it with a regular headset and the audio experience is pretty decent. Now finally, when it comes to the battery life, this phone sports a massive 4300 mAh battery, supports fast charging and comes with a 33 watt flash charge 2.0 inside the box. You can completely charge this phone from 0 to 100% in less than an hour, and the battery life is pretty good. On average, I got about 6 to 7 hours of screen on time on day-to-day basis without any issues. That's without playing any games. For a regular user, I think that's more than sufficient. And the charging speeds are also pretty good, so even if you're a heavy user, you really won't be missing out on too much. So guys, to conclude, Vivo X60 is definitely a pretty cool package with great cameras, good performance, an amazing looking display, and most importantly, a phone with a sleek form factor and premium looks and design. So if you're looking for a phone around 40,000 rupees with great cameras and a very well balanced phone, then I can definitely recommend you this phone. So guys, what do you think about this phone? Do let me know by commenting below this video, and if you're planning to buy this phone, use the link in the description. It always helps the channel. With that said, this is Nikhil signing off. See you in my next video.